Hey everyone, if you're returning to this series, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'd like to invite you to join us by hitting the subscribe button after you watch the video, or the live if you're watching it live, just to make sure you like what you're seeing. And come join us, all right? So today, we're diving deep into a critical topic that a lot of people avoid until it's too late: security in an urban or suburban crisis. This is part of the Full Spectrum Preparedness series, City Survival 101. You can see it. There's a playlist that I'll probably add the link to it after the live's over. And it deals with urban preparedness in a crisis situation. And today's session is titled "Your Home, Your Responsibility." All right. Can you guys see that okay? If that's okay, just put a 1 in the chat. I've been playing around with different designs to see how it goes. So now that that's up there, grab your favorite beverage, grab a notepad, and let's get real. Because when the world starts sliding sideways, you can't outsource accountability. Why security matters. You know, people often prep food, they stash water, and they plan their bug out bags. But they completely forget or neglect one important thing: defending it. It's uncomfortable to talk about it. No one likes to imagine their homes being under threat or becoming their own first responder. But here's a fact: if you can't defend it, you don't own it. This isn't fear-mongering like on a bunch of other channels. This is about being responsible for your family, your peace of mind, and everything you've built. Think of security in the full spectrum preparedness framework as your insurance policy when law enforcement is overwhelmed and emergency services are on pause. Next slide. Boom. Security in full spectrum, I can't even talk. Security in full spectrum preparedness. Security is not a standalone issue. In fact, out of all the aspects of full spectrum preparedness, this is the one that ties everything else together. You stockpile food, great. But if someone takes it, what now? You have a water source. If your supply point gets compromised, are you truly ready? You've built shelter. That's great until somebody kicks your door in. Security is a force multiplier that protects your other preparations. It's not about being a hero. It's about planning like your life depends on it, because it very well might. All right, now we're going to look at some of the security challenges that the urban and the suburban preppers face. So let's break down some of these unique challenges if you live in a city or the suburbs. First one: people everywhere. Population density equals unpredictability. Chaos can spark off within hours. And we've seen that all over the news for the past 4 or 5 years. It happens just like that sometimes. So that all those people, man, they get together, they start wigging out about something, they become very unpredictable. The second one: renters can't always control how they can harden their building structurally, or how to control entry to it. Renting, and we talked about this in the video about shelter. It's exponentially harder to prepare your shelter when you don't own it. The next thing: thin walls. Excuse me. Light, sound, and smells travel. What you do behind closed doors in the city may not stay there. Well, it may not stay there any place, but we're in a city and you've got paper thin walls. Everybody's in your business. You know, there's a story that the guy that owns Sun Oven told about the missionaries who were doing relief work in Haiti. they had to get sun ovens because sun ovens don't smell when you're cooking in them. Because when they were preparing food, the smell would waft, and people from 2-3 miles away would smell it, and they would make their way there, and they would steal what they were preparing. All right, number 4, legal minefields. Laws vary from state to state, city to city, and locale to locale. What self-defense in one city might get you locked up in another. You know, if you live in a very anti-gun state like California, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, defending yourself, even if you're morally right in doing it, can land you in jail. We've seen that time and time again. And finally, the 5th one, low trust societies. In cities and the suburbs, many people don't even know their neighbors. So who's got your back when things go bad? Tell you what, if you're in the chat, go ahead and put a 1 in there if you've talked to the neighbor on each side of you and you know them well enough to know if they're a threat or a liability. You know, and if this is hitting home, put it in the comments. If you're watching this in replay, put it in the comments and let us know what your biggest challenges are where you live. So Jane says that she knows that she's talked to the neighbors on both sides, and she knows if they're a threat or a liability. That's a good thing to do, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit as we go on in the presentation. All right, next slide. What are we talking about? The 5 layers of urban security. This section right here. If you're taking notes, this section right here is the meat and potatoes. That's going to be the longest section, but it's got the most important information in it because it lays the foundation for everything else that you do. And that's because security isn't just locks and guns. It's a layered system. Think of security, whether it's an urban setting, a suburban setting, or a rural setting, as an onion that with layers that can be peeled back. All right, so let's break it down. First one is awareness. So being aware means you know your surroundings, you study crime maps, and you study people. Your situational awareness is kicked up a notch. It also entails systems that you put in place like motion lights, apps, or even Wi-Fi cameras that monitor your locale, your property, and the inside of your house. And it allows you to watch from a safe distance things that are going on. You know, and here's a tip about awareness. Most attacks and thefts are just random opportunistic things. But with that, well, no buts there. With that said, trust your gut. If your situational awareness is cooked up a notch, you will be aware and you'll sense these things, and you need to trust it. There was an incident this weekend in Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska, and some guy walked up to a bar and he was looking shady, and the unarmed security guard made his way to the trunk of his car, which was sitting right out in front of the bar, and the guy that was acting shady pulled out a Glock with a drum magazine on it and shot 3 people. And that was all the time he had because the security guard shot him from about 10 feet away. The security guard had situational awareness and had a gut feeling that something was going to go down. Okay, the second layer is deterrence. So you can do this. You can deter theft and people being where they're not supposed to be with motion lights, thorny bushes. I'm a huge advocate of incorporating landscaping into your defense, and thorny bushes like a bayberry or a holly are great bushes to put around windows and ledges so people can't easily access them. And And a barking dog. Yes, a barking dog. Just the presence of a dog will deter somebody who's opportunistically looking at your property. And the whole key to deterrence is, when I was in the Marine Corps, one of the things they taught us, that presence was about 80% of the battle in deterring something from happening. And in an urban setting, you are not going to keep a determined bad guy out. They will defeat your defenses eventually, either by persistence or numbers. All right. So the key to deterrence in the urban setting is to not look impenetrable, but it's to look harder to hit than your neighbor. Many people, if they see your house and it's well lit and there's cameras up, they'll move on to an easier target. And I know that sounds kind of bad, but it's true. The third one is barriers. So barriers slow people down. You reinforce doors and windows. You add braces and bars, and you layer obstacles outside your home. Again, those thorny bushes, those act as a barrier too. The goal to deterrence, to barriers, is to make the intruder work for it. Make him make noise, make him take his time, because it will draw attention to him and it will allow you more time to react. Okay, and speaking of react, that's the fourth one, response. You want to designate safe rooms. You want to have a fallback position. You want to keep legal self-defense tools accessible. And I say legal because that's a key component when you're living in the city. And finally, the fifth one, and this is one a lot of people don't think about, is recovery. After a threat, assess, adapt, and rebuild stronger. You should debrief your household or your neighborhood or anybody that's involved in the event. You should debrief, figure out what you did well, figure out what you didn't do well, repair what's broken, and adjust your routines. This system buys you time and options. This 5-layered approach buys you time and options. It's not perfection, but it's enough to survive. Len says that they were being chased by a bear. We were being chased by a bear. I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. Absolutely. That's 100% correct. And that's the same exact concept. Okay. So let's take a break on this one for a second. And let's talk about, what do you want to talk about? I mentioned sun ovens earlier. Guys, listen, time to pay some bills. All right. If you want to help the channel, help yourself. And you can help yourself by going to the link down below in the affiliates and going to Sun Oven, or you can use this QR code right here where is it? Right there. You can use that QR code to go to our affiliate link at Sun Oven, and you can get yourself the premier solar oven in the world. All right. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that just as a sales pitch. I honestly believe it is the best one in the world. All right. So you guys, if you want to help yourselves and help us in the process, go check out the All-American Sun Oven. All right. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay. The next one. You are the first line of defense. You are the most important piece of the puzzle when it comes to security. So, and it's all about mindset, because having gear without grit is just expensive decoration. How many tactical people do you know that have all the best gear and they have no idea how to use it? I've seen a lot. I have seen a lot. Okay, so there are three aspects here that we're looking at. First one, like we said in the last part, situational awareness. Pick your head up out of your phone, look around, study people, study the situation, walk around your property and get to know the lay of the land. I don't care if it's an apartment building or a townhouse, condominium row, or it's a suburban yard. I don't care where you are. Get out and know your surroundings. Be able to tell when something's out of place or somebody's not who's not supposed to be there is there and they're doing something they shouldn't do. All right. The second one is mental conditioning. Ask yourself constantly, what would I do if ... And then answer it. Think it through and answer it. This is one of those things. At the end of this video, the Without Rule of Law card game commercial is going to play. And that is a perfect tool for mentally condition yourself and running your mind through different scenarios and contemplating how you would act in these different situations. And finally, this is one that a lot of people don't think about: de-escalation. So the best fight you're ever in is the one you avoid. And de-escalation is key to that. If you can't avoid it and you're stuck in a situation that you can't get out of, stay calm, speak with authority, and know when to walk away or act. And that's the key right there. Knowing when to walk away or to act. Sometimes, sometimes you get in a situation where you don't get to decide if you're walking away or not. That's when you have to decide when to act. All right. And remember, we're not trying to win the fight here. You're trying to prevent one. That's the whole key. These guys that dream about getting in gunfights at the end of the world, those are the guys that end up with holes poked in them and end up dead. And then where are their families and what good are all their preparations? All right, the next one. And we've talked about this one before too, the gray man strategy. Security, again, is not just about locks. Part of security is being invisible. It's called security by obscurity is what it's actually called. And this is where the gray man mindset shines. If you're in the city, dress plain, no tactical camo in the suburbs. Don't go around wearing a tactical backpack. Get something that looks like you're an average commuter. If you're going to work, get nothing that looks military. You do not want to be memorable at all in the way you look, because if they can't remember you and they don't remember what you look like, then you're not a threat. Okay. Keep your gear and your prepping lifestyle low key. Don't be flashing. Don't be flashing everything out. If you get a big haul of supplies, move it, take the car into the garage, shut the door, unload it there if you have a garage, and discreetly dispose of the trash, the packaging. That's one of the biggest way at Christmas time in the city and the suburbs. That's how the thieves know which houses to hit after Christmas, because there's a box from a brand new big screen TV or the $100 and $200 sneakers in the trash, the trash day after Christmas. And finally, talk prepping with only trusted people. Don't, and this is one of those, I'm going to come off as very hypocritical by saying that statement, because I made the decision early on in this endeavor that I was going to be evangelical about this stuff. And I'm going to talk about prepping with people and I'm going to show them how it can be done. But if you want to remain the gray man, you don't do that. You don't talk about prepping. You discreetly bring the subject up tangentially with people and figure out who you can trust, who is worthy of being in your circle of trust. And then you can start talking about prepping and security like this. The goal here is not to blend in, to not get noticed. You want to be boring. I know a lot of people that's antithetical to who they are, but you want to be boring. And when something happens, you'll be the one who quietly has a plan. Next slide. Oh, that one's hard to read, isn't it? I didn't do a very good job on that one. I apologize. But this slide is about firearms and self-defense, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's on there if you can't read that. Okay. And quite frankly, when you mention security, guns become the elephant in the room, and everybody wants to talk about it. All right. Should you own one? That's your call. What kind should you get? I don't know. Again, that's your call. But here are some things that are 100% true about firearms and self-defense in the urban crisis setting. Okay. Number one, a gun is a tool. It's not a talisman. All right. It's not a panacea that's going to cure all of your security ills. All right. Simple fact is, you have to know how to use it. You have to be able to store it and be able to deploy it. And most importantly, deploy it and use it under stress. That's I cannot stress that enough. No pun intended. You have to train under stressful situations. Going out and shooting on flat range and putting holes in paper is fine and dandy, but that does very little to inoculate you against the way your body reacts under stress. All right. Next one. Oh, here's something else. This is a truth. I learned this when I was in the Marine Corps. So you will not rise to the situation. If something happens, you will not rise to it. What'll happen is you'll default to your highest level of training. So if your level of training is very low, then your response to a situation is going to be equally as low. All right. Next one. Understand your state and local laws, especially ones like castle doctrine, duty to retreat, and use of force rules. All right. These are key. These are key to staying out of jail, because the good guy with a gun is only effective if he hasn't been arrested and thrown in the clink. Oh, we got a couple of people popped in. No Quarter popped in and said, most important, remember what the Oracle of Delphi said: know thyself. HG popped in. Evening. Yes, Lynn, have some non-lethal things handy. In fact, that's what I'm going to talk about right now. In the city, a lot of the times, non-lethal alternatives are probably better than a firearm itself. Something like pepper spray or a stun gun, or even a flashlight. They sell tactical flashlights that are very, very good at pummeling an attacker and defending yourself with. All right. And these are valid options in many urban environments. Thing to remember is, depending on where you are, some of those non-lethal alternatives may be 100% illegal. All right. And the bottom line of the firearms and self-defense talk is training beats toys. If you haven't practiced, you're not ready. Okay, now let's chase a squirrel for a second. I did a video a couple of years ago about the best gun to have in the event of a crisis or an emergency. Okay, and I'm going to paraphrase it for you. We're going to break it down into a couple of sentences. The best gun for you to have is the one that you have access to, you have ammunition for, and that you are trained to use. If that gun is a high point C9, and that's the gun that you have available, and that's the gun that's ready to use, that is the best gun for the situation, right? As long as you've trained for it. If that gun is a $4,000 AR that's completely tricked out, and you've trained with it, and you've got the ammo, and it's ready to use, then that's the best gun for you to use. All right. Okay. Let's go back to the presentation now. Okay, guys. No, we got some more people coming in. Skane's just popped in. She says she's way behind tonight. That's okay. What you missed, you can go back and watch on replay. This is why we do these lives. All right. The next one is threat assessment, the urban threat assessment. Here's a simple fact. You can't defend against a threat that you don't know is out there. If you haven't identified it, there's no way you can prepare for it, and there's no way you can mitigate it. All right. So here's what you want to do. You want to start mapping risks in your area. You want to look at crime patterns, vulnerable infrastructures, old bridges, old power stations, anything like that. Civil unrest trends, that's a huge one. Seems like every summer becomes liberal riot season where they're fiery but mostly peaceful. But you want to start tracking triggers like blackouts, protests, police incidences, and you want to prioritize by looking at the likelihood and impact of something, the probability and the possibility, and then you want to adjust your plans accordingly. I did a video, again, it's in the full spectrum preparedness playlist on threat assessment. I did a complete breakdown of how to do a proper threat analysis and working up mitigation actions. So if you want, go back and look at it through the back catalog. It's there. Quite frankly, it's one of the better ones I made because it was on a subject that I was intimately familiar with due to my training and working with the Missouri National Guard. All right. The next one. Oh, I think yeah, there we go. Blew right past that. The next slide, didn't I? Next one, we're going to talk about strengthening community defenses. Now, if you've been on this channel for even 5 minutes and you've watched any of our lives or seen any of our videos, you'll know that community is top of the list in my mind about something that you should develop. Because if you're by yourself, you're going to be isolated and you're easily picked off. Community makes you stronger as an individual. It multiplies you, and it doesn't have to be lonely, right? It doesn't have to be lonely. So here's what you do. You start by building small, quiet networks within your neighborhood, your apartment building or whatever. You again, this goes back to meeting your neighbors and knowing your neighbors. You just start swapping contact information just in case something goes wrong. You never know. And it's always good to be able to contact your neighbor, right? Next thing you do is you watch each other's backs. You offer to watch their house. You find out they're going on vacation. You offer to watch their house and make sure that nothing happens. So you don't have to go inside. You just keep an eye on it, right? And that'll build trust. Remember, I was talking about those low trust societies. This is how we build trust. All right. And then once you get to a certain point and you feel comfortable with that person, you can start sharing the tools, skills, and info that you need to become prepared as a community or as an apartment building or as a townhouse block or whatever. It's that simple. It's probably the hardest part about the entire process is that initial conversation. But once you get past that, it all becomes easier. And here's the thing. If your entire block is switched on, then you're stronger than any lone wolf could ever be, right? And quite frankly, if you've got an entire block with neighborhood watches and maybe a informal patrol nightly, you become a fortress in a sea of crisis. Seriously. You become a hard nut to crack. And again, people will move on to easier opportunities. The next one. Urban mobility. Yeah, can't talk. Urban mobility and evacuation. That's bug out for all you people that are wondering what that means. That means bugging out. All right. So one thing that we figured out is sometimes the best security is leaving. If bugging out becomes necessary, here are some key points to understand and to implement. Number one, have multiple routes. Make sure you've got a route you can walk on, a route you can drive on, and a route that you can take an alternative means of transportation like a bike or a motorcycle on. All right, have multiple routes, because there's no guarantee that your preferred route is going to be available in a time of crisis. What if there's a riot happening on your evacuation route and you don't have any alternatives mapped out? Kind of stuck, aren't you? All right. Second thing is pack light. You want to pack for an urban environment. You want to pack for the elements, the elements you're going to face, the weather you're going to face. And you want to blend in. Again, we're going back to the gray man thing. All right. We want to be unnoticed and boring. We don't want to look like a threat. Here's the key one. Especially the key one if you're looking to bug out. Decide now, before a crisis happens, what your evacuation triggers are. What's going to cause you to pack up and leave the security of your home. All right. And you have to know that. And here's another thing. You need to come to agreement with the people that are involved in the bugging out, who makes the call. Because you can't have a bunch of different ship's captains deciding when it's time to move. You have to designate one person to make that call. And that one person should listen to everybody else's concerns, and they should make the call. All right. Here's the bottom line on mobility and evacuation in an urban crisis. Okay. If you leave early, you're smart. You have to have a designated landing spot, a prepared landing spot. You have to know where you're going, have a destination in mind, and know that it is a welcoming place for you. Because if you don't do that, if you leave late, or you leave with no destination, no planned destination in mind, you're not an evacuee, you're a refugee. And there's a huge difference. All right. There's a huge difference. I had a friend that did multiple tours in Iraq, and that was the biggest lesson he said he learned was, if you don't have a place to go that's prepared for you, then you're a refugee. Next one. All right, this is one that a lot of people don't think about, and other people really groove on it. Protection and resource protection and foraging. So security is also about guarding what you stored, but it's knowing how to get more as well, if needed. So here's some things to think about. We talked about this in the shelter video, and we talked about it in the food video. Oh, excuse me. And again, this just proves the point that security is the one aspect that ties everything together. Hide supplies in plain sight. If it looks innocuous, people aren't gonna pay attention to it. Hide it under a couch. That couch is in plain sight. Nobody's gonna think that you've got supplies stuck underneath there. Hide it under a bed with a duvet around the edge of it. Nobody's gonna do a cursory look down there. If they're doing a deep search, yeah, they're gonna find it. But that's true with almost anything, unless you've got secret compartments, right? The next one is, if you do need to get supplies, you want to forage discreetly. And a lot of people, whenever you say forage, immediately think of food. We're not solely thinking about food. We're thinking about anything that you may need in a survival situation. That's one of the things that if you've ever read Selko's description of being in Sarajevo during the siege, during the Yugoslavian Civil War, he made a list of 100 things that disappear first. And I ought to start doing a video series on that, because it's actually a pretty good thing to know. But anyway, and the key aspect of the story was, they were always having to leave the safety of where they were hiding to go find stuff that they needed to live. So they were out foraging, they were out trying to barter, but you can look at, rooftop water tanks for water. You can go to abandoned stores if you're looking for tools or supplies like that. Go to abandoned stores. Find a green zone in your city. Learn how to forage locally. That's you know, a lot of people think that foraging is a bushcraft skill. It's not. It can be an urban survival skill too. Knowing how to identify plants that are edible in the city is a huge multiplier. You know, and finally, barter smart. Never show your full hand. I did a whole video on how to barter a couple years ago too. It's in the full spectrum playlist. I think you can find it. Just look for the keyword barter in our back catalog. But number one, you got to learn how to barter. You got to practice it. You know, some people are born hagglers. Most people aren't. You need to learn how to barter, and you need to practice security while you're bartering. If you've got 100 batteries to barter with, only take 2 or 3. And if somebody wants more, you can go back and get some. You don't want to take everything because they're going to steal it from you if they think they can get away with it. You know, have a security force. Go to that video about bartering, and it gives a complete rundown on it. Actually, what I ought to do after this video's live and it's been processed on YouTube, I ought to go into process and put cards up so you can go watch these videos if you want. In fact, I may do that tomorrow after this thing's live and processed. All right. You know, but the whole thing with your resources is it's not just about surviving. It's about thriving, but it's not just about thriving either. It's about doing it wisely and ethically. You know, I just so happen to be working on this chapter for the book I'm putting together on this topic of city survival, and that was one of the parts that I really had to work on was the moral and ethical implications of everything we do in a crisis situation. You know, and it's something a lot of people don't contemplate. You know, and this is just a microcosm of what I got into. All right. So we're going to talk about legal and ethical considerations. Being right doesn't mean that you'll stay free. You need to know the law. Again, what's legal force where you live? What happens after you use it? Can you defend your actions in court? You know, set your ethical limits now. Know where the line is that you will not cross. So you're not making moral decisions in the heat of the moment or on the fly. Know, again, it goes back to, I think No Quarter posted it, know thyself. You should have these lines set, and you should know where the no-go zones are. You know, and a lot of people that come up with these elaborate plans to defend their property. But the simple fact is, chances are, if law and order goes away, it's going to come back. And you're going to be held responsible for every action that you took during that crisis. You may have been, you know, it may have been 100% morally right for you to do what you did to protect your life and your family. You're still going to have to defend it in court. So you need to make sure you're doing everything that you can to make that happen. You know, and another thing that you need to think about is how you interact with authorities during these crises. You know, because the doomsday fantasy of the Mad Max world where there's no law and order, yeah, that doesn't happen very often. All right. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, you know, because you end up with like Sierra Leone in the 90s or at parts of South Africa today where there is no law and order. But the reality of it is most of us are going to face it in a not complete without rule of law situation. All right. So the next slide, security is not optional. This is probably the truest statement in this entire presentation. You know, like I said before, security is everything that holds full spectrum preparedness together. Without it, the rest of it crumbles. So here's what I want you to do. This is kind of a call to action here. I want you to first assess your home and figure out how to harden it. All right, you need to make that thing a hard target. And we talked about it in the shelter video. We talked about it a little bit here. Next one, know your tools. That means using them and training them. And I'm not talking just about guns. I'm talking about every tool that you think you may need to use in a survival situation, whether it's solar power to charge your battery powered tools, or it's a water filter system so you can have drinking water. You need to use it. All right. And I explained it to somebody one time from a military standpoint. I would never send my troops out untrained on the gear that they're carrying. That as a leadership position goes, that is completely unethical. All right. So you need to train with it. If you wouldn't send somebody else out, why would you send your own self out? No Quarter says, even when there's no law and order, there's still law and order. Yeah, somebody's going to impose at some point. And then he follows up by, getting in my home is easy, getting out alive is another story. Oh, Anti popped in. Hey, Anti. Let's see here. The first key to effective bartering is knowing and being able to do the walk away, same as flea market and expos, etc. Yep, absolutely. Again, that goes back to why we practice, why we go to barter towns. We set up little bartering things in our communities, and we do them on a regular basis. You know, the next thing I want you to do is you need to train your mind. Like I said, run through these little scenarios. And what would I do if? Go through your house, walk through your house and practice. You know, you can turn the lights off and walk through your house in the dark and see if you're tripping over stuff. You know, you need to train your mind to know where all the obstacles are in your house when the lights are off. Just the things you can do in this respect are just innumerable, and it's only limited by your imagination, seriously. And again, the without rule of law cards, the links down in the affiliate links below, those are a great tool. Not only that, it also goes back to being a great conversation starter for building community. And speaking of communities, the next thing I want you to do is build your network. You know, if you're not in a tightly knit community now, that's okay. You still got time. Maybe running short. Don't know how much time we got, but you got time. But you need to start working on it now. Build those networks and find some people. You know, I got a standard here. I got my wallet, my life, and my wife. All right. I can find people that fit one or more of those categories, then I'm ahead of the game. And it's do I trust them with my wallet? Do I trust them with my life? And do I trust them with my wife if I'm not there, i.e. I'm dead? You know, that's the standard we're looking for, seriously. And finally, I want you to plan your exit. I don't care where you are. You need to think about where I'm going to go if something happens. All right. So security is not a product. It's plain and simple. It's practice. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to practice security from here on out. Don't wait for that knock at the door at 2 a.m. You want to build your defenses now and test them before that happens. All right. And then where are we on the... Oh, that's the end of we're getting towards the end here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. The next topic in the video series is going to be medical preparedness in an urban environment. And this is an important one. Working on that right now, and hopefully I nail it for you guys. Something I learned today is the presentation I made last week may not be the presentation that I offer you up tonight. And I may have spent an hour or two today scrambling, trying to get a new one put together with new information and better information for you. All right, guys, like I said, if you're new here and you made it this far in the video, you're not a subscriber, go ahead and think about subscribing to the channel. Come join us. Come join us on this journey towards a life done free. We talk about the nuts and bolts of freedom and homesteading and modern self-reliance and all these things. You know, it's a good place to start, right? And if you liked it, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Beat that thumbs up button like it's a liberal protester. And then share it. If you know somebody that lives in an urban or suburban environment and they're just now starting the journey, go ahead and share this video with them so that they can be emboldened, empowered to start moving forward. All right. Comment down below if you're watching this on replay, and again, you made it this far. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. The one thing I regret about this presentation that I gave you, I had some very good audience interaction questions for you guys, and I forgot to put them into this video, and I really kind of upsets me. Oh, look up there. There's Mr. Bobby Spags. How you doing? You're coming in late, man. We're almost done. Again, if you're looking to help the channel, help yourselves. Go to the affiliate links down below. And most importantly, guys, you put your head on the pillow tonight. Make sure you've done something today that makes you better off than when you woke up. And then go out tomorrow and live a life done free.
Survival isn't just about having the right gear. It's about mindset. In a world without the rule of law, what will you do to survive? WROL isn't just a game. It's a tool to hone your preparedness and survival mindset. Test your instincts. Outthink, outlast, and outmaneuver your opponents in a world that's fallen apart. With WROL, every card you play challenges your thinking, tests your adaptability, and sharpens your ability to make tough decisions under pressure. Whether you are planning for an everyday emergency or prepping for the end of the world, WROL helps you prepare for the chaos of everything in between. Ready to level up your survival skills? Click the link in the description to order your deck of WROL cards today and start building your SHTF mindset. The apocalypse starts here.